free now. Oh.
Go ahead.
Yep, your oh, his whiskers are so long. Can I put leaves over him?
When making a mousetrap, I'm always looking to use what I have laying around. For example, I have an apple cider container, arrow shaft cutoffs, magnets from a hard drive, some really small magnets from eBay, screws, a string from Christmas, I think, some scrap metal that's basically the thickness of a cookie tin, a large washer from this sink drain pipe, and some old expired Suguru. I hope it still works though, because you can see the expiry date there. And some small O-rings. Of course, use whatever you have to substitute. Your imagination is the only barrier. For tools, I got some pliers, some tin snips, and hot glue. I had Gorilla Glue in the back there, but I didn't end up using that at all. I start figuring out what style of trap. I've made various types of traps, some hinge door styles, sliding doors, Venus flytrap, trap door. I'll place a card in the top right where you can check out the playlist of all the types of traps I've made or reviewed. This time I'll make a simple hinge door trap with a magnet for the locking mechanism and the use of a magnet for the trigger mechanism as well. Just something I thought of on the fly. Now, the trigger mechanism is a little complicated. I use a paper clip that's straightened out. I have the string glued to the side, and the place at the top where it angles back at 90 degrees, that's pointing to the back of the trap. And down lower is where we have the hook for the seed, and that little kind of Z pattern at the bottom, that's where the paperclip actually anchors to the bottom of the arrow shaft so that it just doesn't pull out. Once the mouse hits the seed that's hanging on the bottom, the jostling or the pulling should release the screw from the magnet on the door. And you can see this screw is just simply hot glued to the string. The door magnet was hanging onto the screw a little bit too strong, so I add a little bit of hot glue to the end of the screw to allow the screw to release a little bit easier. Now the bait that I use is a black sunflower seed, and I'll just pierce that onto the end of that hook and then hot glue it in place, just to make sure they just can't pick it off, make them work for it, which will cause that trigger to release the door. Just make sure that little edge on the paper clip is sticking back towards the back of the trap. Insert it in, and then simply lift the door up, attach the screw to the magnet that's on the back of the door, and then while holding that in place, secure that edge into the arrow shaft, and that should hold it still. So it should just take little bits of movement to trigger the door shut. Now all that's left to do is put it outside and see what I can catch. Now, my trail cam keeps on malfunctioning. I didn't capture the door shutting or the trigger mechanism going off, but I'll just show you what I got. Now I left some of the black sunflower seeds in the trap just to entice the mouse to come in, and so that's what he's doing, is he's just picking out some of the seeds and then coming out to eat them and go in and out. So nothing happened for a couple nights until one morning I went out and found this.
We got it.
Now this was a live trap, so I released the mouse. Now people always ask, why am I catching mice outside and not in my house? My number one reason is simply to reduce the numbers around my house to decrease the chances of them entering into my home at some point. I've been lucky not to have an immediate problem in my home at this point, but sharing the habitat with others will likely lead to a rodent or two trying to share my home with me. And now for the joke of the day. I used to work in a shoe recycling shop. It was soul destroying. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next Ladybug adventure.